Ooh, ooh, ooh. WDBFradio.com. WDBFradio.com.
Welcome to Bucks on the Bookshelf with your host, Steve the Bookman Eisenstein. Steve the Bookman Eisenstein has been involved in buying, selling, and appraisals of rare books since 1968. This show has been designed with making money for the listeners in mind. More people know the value of coins, stamps, objects of art, and collectibles they do not own than the values of the books in their home library shelves. Now, here's Steve the Bookman Eisenstein.
Good morning, my fellow lovers of rare books and appreciators of hunting them, buying them, researching them, and selling them. Welcome to today's edition of Bucks on the Bookshelf. Whatever your niche, you are listening to us live on the WDBF radio networks, 24/7 radio for your listening pleasure. Bucks on the Bookshelf is the program, and take out something to write with and something to write on, and copy down our call-in number, 888-575-4394. That's 888-575-4394. We'd love to answer your questions. And based on the 78 new members to Vintage Rare and Antique Books this week, guys, 888-575-4394. Call us. We'll answer your valuation questions for free. Call somebody to have your books appraised. It's like $250 an hour. So think about it. And actually, there's a slight uptick in new members. We've been averaging 50 and down for a while now. It looks like we're getting into the 70s again, but from the past highs, 175 to 200 a week, I'm wondering, what are we doing wrong, or do we need to change our scent or something? Not really. We're not doing anything wrong. We still get a lot of compliments. So, we posted this 888-575-4394 number in the welcome message this week. So let's see if we can help you value your books. All you got to do is call. My guest today is an upcoming art show promoter. And if location is important, and location is exotic, I guess Nigeria could be about a pretty exotic location, and that's where he's coming from. How does somebody meet somebody that's doing art shows in Nigeria? Well, prior to Facebook, it wouldn't have been, but we met on Facebook, and actually through Enrico Novelli, whose Facebook group, Club 30 International, is a great group. Coker Gbenga is his name, and we'll be discussing how to put on and set up an art fair. Nothing different from an art fair and a book fair except the product, and even then we have art at those fairs, and some art fairs have books. So, this is going to be like one of his first events. He's planning it as to where he lives in Nigeria. And what I'm hoping out of this audience is this: some listener somewhere in this country, in another country somewhere, hopefully close to home for him, but some listener can help him by providing information, per se, on art grants, especially in foreign countries. Um, I think what he's got is a very noble idea. The art market is exceptionally competitive no matter where you go. But I think what he will be dealing with is more like what we would call tribal art, whether it be antique or modern. We're going to be talking about that also. What kind of, art are we looking for at these shows? We know native art programs are all over the place, especially where there are tourist areas. But how do you develop that kind of thing? How can he make it a go-to function for visiting tourists. If anybody is connected with some kind of group that, in theater, we used to call them theater angels. If anybody's into art and grant writing and would be willing to suggest a few places or things, maybe he can follow through on some of those leads. So we'll be talking about more with Coker later in the program. And we're also going to talk to him. I don't know how many people see his posts. I'm sure there's quite a few in the audience because we all share common Facebook groups. But I got some questions about cultural differences. I think this could be fun. Um, you know, uh, Based on some of his other posts that aren't quite art posts. We'll talk about those more in another segment. Um, Personally, I've been busy working on pricing thousands of pieces of ephemera from the collection we've been working on for months and still working on. We're trying to get it ready for the show in March. I've got some I'm holding for that. And later today, I keep saying that, but dealing with some issues, I don't always have the energy that I want. So later today, what I am hoping to do is put some stuff up on the ephemera page, and we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. Ephemera. For those of you who are new, we don't talk about ephemera enough, I think. So let's get into it a little bit. For those of you who are new, or those of you who have been at it for a while but don't quite get the hang of what ephemera is, let me try and give you a little crash course in it. And what's the best way to tell you about something? Well, define the meaning of the word. What is ephemera? By nature, an ephemeral item was not meant to last. It was meant to be used once, maybe twice, thrown out. What are some examples of ephemera? There's so many, but let's try it. It was not produced to last like a book. That's why some pieces are rare and unique. Like the Old West Wanted poster. That's an example of ephemera. A menu, a railroad timetable, and advertising something that was one sheet. Somebody's diploma, hopefully signed by a college president in the 1800s that went on to be famous or infamous, but ephemera. It's kind of like paper that was meant not to be kept. Like everything else in ephemera, condition is everything. Books, coins, stamps, whatever. Condition is everything. Everything that we've been working on has been in very good or better condition. It's wonderful when you have a collector who leaves you notes and puts everything in plastic and all that. And we're also working besides ephemera, so ephemera, paper that was meant not to last, printed, colorful, it could be anything, in the ephemeral nature of things. What's another subject that we're working on? And again, I didn't come across ephemera in quantities very often. Some areas you do, some areas you don't. This made up for years of lost time, I'll tell you. And the same thing in the field of deltology. So here's the first trivia contest question of the day, and we'll give you some vintage postcards as a prize. What is deltology? I mean, I just about gave you the answer, 888-575-4394. Um, Most seasoned dealers know what type of postcards are more desirable. Um, some are seasonally desirable, Valentine's Day, July 4th, Christmas, New Year's, all of that. Others based on the artist that made them. Then you got the movables and the lantern cards, hold it up to a light, and all kinds of colors, appearance things. Um, so postcards, You see them all the time. Sometimes you walk into a house, there's a notebook. You walk into a house, the guy was a collector, there's boxes, you know. One of the things that I'm going to say, I think a lot of people in general, not everybody, but I think a lot of people don't pay attention to the philatelic value that can be attached to some of these postcards. And when we're talking about philatelic value, in the case of the postcards from the 1880s, 1890s, 1900s, the philatelic value is not going to be so much in the actual stamp as to what I've noticed, more so the cancellation mark. Cancellation marks can really make a difference in the value of something. Um, if you see, you know, if you're curious to see what makes one envelope with a cachet in the left, a stamp or three in the upper corner, and a couple of cancellation marks, what makes an envelope like that go for 75 to $100,000 for the envelope at an auction? Learn about covers and cancels and you'll know more. But one of the things you might want to think about is just pick up a little bit of knowledge in the philatelic end of what you might see on postcards because it's often overlooked, you know. Um, Postcards are usually, unless they've changed it in the last few years, they're rated R1 to R5. We have a collection of about 3,000 cards right now that most of them are going to be R3, 4, and 5, the better cards. You know, when you have 3,000 cards and a lot of them have the cancellation marks that are desirable, not paying attention to them, it doesn't add a tremendous amount of money, a dollar or two here or there, but with 3,000 cards, that can add up to a lot of money. So think about it if you wind up with a big postcard collection. For most bulk postcard sales, when you're talking about selling them by the tens of thousands, you know, a couple of thousand, 5,000, 10,000, that's not uncommon at all. You're looking at prices, well, you know, 50 cents or less, much less in many cases, depends on what's there. So, you know, we're going to be putting up postcard groupings. We're going to be putting up other ephemeral type items. Um, and we're going to be using a method that's called Dandi. Now, I knew of the method, but I wasn't conscious when I saw it first. So I had to ask, what is Dandi selling? DOND is the lettering. Deal or no deal selling is what it is. So it's kind of like an auction, but you don't have to accept the bids, which is kind of cute. Some people like it, some people don't. I've tried it a few times. It's been fun. It's not something I would do all the time, but considering the amount of ephemeral stuff that we have, I think it should be fun. And the few times we did it already, we were successful. So I'm kind of happy with that. Um, it's been another interesting week in auctions. All kinds of stuff have been going on. One of the things that I love to do when I look at the Rare Book Hub, and for everybody that's new, rarebookhub.com, go to it, get their free newsletter. Um, you may or may not need their subscription service one day, but if you wind up with a room full of older, better looking books, then you definitely need the subscription services of the auction records that they will provide you with. But that's rarebookhub.com, and it's also got a free newsletter. Whether you subscribe to them or not, it's a free newsletter. I would suggest subscribing to it. So if you were watching the news in the last couple of days on most of the channels, they covered two stories. One thing went for $9.12 million, and that was a graded 9.0. I think it's the finest copy known to man of the first edition of Superman. That's an interesting price, but what kind of gets me and I guess maybe I'm getting jaded in my old age. Strauss, the Strauss family, whose one of their members died on the Titanic, somehow they got his watch back. What went for more? The watch or the Superman comic? And the answer is the watch went for 1.3 mil and the Superman went for 9.12. Makes you wonder about our world today. Something that caught my eye, and I guess maybe I'm slow to learn it, but everybody knows guitars. You get the right guitar, and you found a fortune. Get the right guitar that you can prove it was played by somebody of note, you got a bigger fortune. But what about other stuff? Um, some of the old equipment is really getting desirable. So a synthesizer, I know most of you know what a synthesizer. I can't even say it right now. Synthesizer. There we go. Is, and a lot of bands use them. There was a band. There was a synthesizer in a suitcase model. It was put up at auction. It went for $115,000, which was 14 times over the pre-auction estimate. And look around. If you were ever in a band, who knows, some little piece of electronic equipment or something just might be worth a fortune today, and you don't know it. Um, Here's another one. I've mentioned this a lot, but this is an auction, so I'm going to mention it again because it's absolutely current, and that is fishing lures, especially fishing lures from the 1890s, 1880s, 1900 early in the original boxes. An Anderson Company weedless trolling lure had a pre-auction estimate of $10,000 to $15,000, and it went for 27K. Amazing. It's just somebody that's got an old tackle box that's been sitting in the house, the garage, the attic, the basement, or just in a closet somewhere. Go check it out. If you have financial problems and you find three or four of the right lures in boxes that great grandpa had, your financial problems are gone. Um, Another one, okay, and I love it. It's the irony of it in this. The top 25 lots at auction. Item number one, and it was Serigraph, I guess, one of Andy Warhol's of Marilyn Monroe, went for $1.5 million. Okay, Monroe, Warhol, iconic, historic. But in my mind's eye, Shakespeare's comedies in a first edition is definitely more historically important than Marilyn and Andy. However, that only went for $121,000. And a Grateful Dead poster went for more than an Autobahn plate. What can you say? What did I take my note on here? I can't read my own writing right now, but that's okay. I only have 47 seconds, 45, 44, 43. No. Um, so we're going to be back shortly with Coker Gbenga. Gbenga. You're gonna have to tell me how to pronounce it, Coker. We're going to be talking about somebody that wants to start an art business in Nigeria. And if you are listening, I think this might go out more on the replay audience, but you can contact Coker on Facebook. We're going to talk to you about how you can reach him when he's on the air. And if you can help him through granting or, do something, maybe somebody out there has an actual idea. Hey, we want to get the art world going in this area. So who knows? Maybe two people are looking for the same thing at the same time. And we're going to connect them on Books on the Bookshelf. It's happened before. We'll be back.
Shelves. Now, here's Steve the Bookman Eisenstein.
Welcome back, my fellow rare bookians. This will be the last time I'm using the cup. I did a post about it before. 9,640 cups of teas over 26 years, and I broke it bringing home lamb chops from Publix. Oh well, but the lamb chops were good. As we are waiting for Coker to join us from Nigeria and talk about art shows, we would love to hear from you. If you take out something to write with and something to write on and copy down our call in number. I just got a message from somebody that said they wish they lived closer to us so they could hear the program. Well, we're on net radio, as I told them. I sent them the link. And if you happen to tune in, I'm going to repeat this again. I don't know if you had enough time to get the link and tune in and all that. But if you have questions, this program was designed. It was the main function, I will tell you, of this program as the creator of it in my mind's eye was to do what we're doing, but to do something else that we need your help with. And that is if you are new or you're seasoned and you have a question on a book or its value, we'd love to hear from you about it. The show's record, man, it's I like records. I like 45s, but I also like, records. This is what was done. And about 7, 8 years ago, we set the show's record for about $50,000, if I remember it correctly. It was at the time two finely bound sets of Henry Schoolcraft's Indian books, and they were just gorgeous, amazing. It was a record setter. We've had quite a few books that were in the thousands of dollars at times, but consistency. It's the hobgoblin of mankind, didn't they say? Or lets you know what you're doing, and you're doing it right. So we'd love to hear from you. Don't be shy. 888-575-4394 is our call-in number. If you are listening to this show on replay, or if you don't know that the show is replayed, let me give you a couple of other things to think about. While you got out something to write with, write on, copy down this phone number: 305-868-5515. That's 305-868-5515. That's a landline. Yes, we still have one, but then again, when the net's down and the landline works, we're very happy. But that's the best way to reach me personally, Steve Eisenstein, off air. 305-868-5515. We would love to hear from you. The show is replayed today from 4 to 6 p.m. It's replayed tomorrow, Sunday, from 8 to 10 a.m. and from 3 to 5 p.m. And as I like to say, for insomniacs, it is 1 to 3 a.m. on Mondays. So wherever you are in the world, unless you're in a blackout area or a dark zone, you can reach us almost anywhere. We can be heard almost anywhere in the world. I'm wondering what's going on with Coker. We had him in the booth at sound check. Edie, I'm going to need my phone back for a minute, please. Just disconnect me in about a minute. Now I know how long the delay is. Let's see. My wife hasn't heard me ask me for the phone back yet. Did you hear me online? How have you heard me say to you? Edie sits across from me. I need to communicate with Coker, and I can't do it here. I need my phone. Give me my phone.
Steve, I sent him another
Oh,
link. I think the problem's going to be on their end.
oh, okay.
You know what I'm
I,
saying? When he can get a connection, he'll probably pop in. So
okay, so all right, I'll talk to him. Yeah, all right. There's another 10
another
minutes in.
a link, and that's all we can do.
Okay, Okay, no problem. So I'm going to ad lib for the next 10 minutes.
It might be longer than that.
Well, that's why God made tape. Think about that one. So anyway, let me pull up something out of the blue. What can we do for an evergreen out of the blue type piece? All right. What is some of the more? I'm gonna pitch this thing towards beginners because um, if we start talking too technical without another person in the studio, so to speak, with me, we're going to lose you all. There's too much to explain. So let me start out with some basic things. One of the most frustrating things that you as a beginner are going to be confronted with is identifying the edition of an older cloth book that's in front of you. And let me say that use this word older for a second. Age has nothing to do with the value of a book. And when you're talking about old books, let me give you a way to think about it. Even if I haven't said this in a while, so even if you're more advanced, you might not have heard of it this way. Old is relevant to the printing history of the country. Okay. What does that mean? Well, we know that in Germany, the first books were published, in 1500. Okay. So if you have a book from 1735 from Germany, they've been pumping out books for 235 years already. If you have a book that was like printed on the first print, here's another thing you might want to think about: printing presses west of the Mississippi. There are words like Ohio or Pennsylvania imprints. In the earlier 1800s, you know, um, there weren't printing presses in every city, town, and burg. So, depending on where and what press printed it, that itself could make, the item rare. But going back to the original thought, the printing history of the country is what makes that word older applicable. So if you said, it was a book from 1760 from America, yeah, okay, that's valid. Maybe not. No, I take that back. They were still printing before that. I had to do some math on that one, but you got the gist of it. The age of the book is not really, the age doesn't make it valuable, but the printing history of the country and how long they've been publishing books is the relevance. It's a better way to look at it, in that sense. So, publishers' first editions, first editions in nonfiction are important. But a lot of times in nonfiction books, the later printing might be more desirable financially, have a higher price than the first edition. Why? Because the second printing had maps, color plates, charts, all kinds of. You want me to put the air on? Air? It had charts, colored plates, things that made it more desirable, prettier, more expensive, and all that than the first edition. The other thing that you want to realize is publishers' names, okay? In the late 1800s, early 1900s, there was so many reprint houses that the cloth, like you could look at an Alice in Wonderland. You got a red cloth gilt cover for the first edition. You got points and everything to contend with for the first edition. I'll explain points in a minute. But then you have, let's say, an 1879, 1880 copy of Alice in Wonderland. it's a later printing. It could be the fourth, fifth, 15th printing. It's still very collectible and very desirable in the original cloth, but you've got to learn what editions are. And so if you go further into the 1890s and you see something published, it's an Alice in Wonderland, but it's published by somebody like maybe Grosset and Dunlap or the New York Book Company or, any one of these 18 other names that are evading me at this moment, you'll know that you don't have a first edition. Um, when first edition is referred to, generally speaking, they're talking about first edition fiction, okay, which is a world unto itself. In 1929, publishers, after years and years and years of publishing, finally decided to have a way to identify their first editions. So, of course, every publisher came up with a different system to identify their first editions. And it creates a nightmare for us, currently. What's going to create even a bigger nightmare about 150 years from now are the facsimile dust jackets, but even they might have some value by then if we're still around. So publishers in 1929 came up with systems to identify their first editions unless the book has points to contend with. Some books have no points. Some books might have 1 point. Some books might have 20 points to contend with. Let me give you examples of what points might be. They're kind of limitless. In an early Dickens title, one of the points in the book might be that page 57 was printed twice somewhere. Another point might be that a crooked S instead of a straight up S was used in a sentence structure. In one edition, the illustrations were between page 12 and 13. In another edition, they were in between 17 and 18 and had different captions. And, you know, it's any change in the book from the first edition. For example, Joseph Heller's, no, I'm sorry, James Agee's A Death in the Family. A Death in the Family is a book that has 2 points. The title page has to be printed in blue and black ink, and on page 79, the first word on the page in the first edition, it's walking, Walking, in the middle of the night. Okay? Walking and the two colors on the title page identify the first edition. The corrected second edition has the proper word, waking in the night. So if you have waking in the night and a blue and black title page, you have the true first edition. If you have the blue and black title page and you don't have the correction, etc., plays out a couple of different ways. Those are points. Some books you might need a bibliography. You would have to go to a Dickens bibliography and look up Master Humphrey's Clock and go from there. Another one, I know you can't see this unless you're going to be watching this on the replay on YouTube, but I'm going to hold it up to the camera anyway. And that is my favorite bang for the buck reference book. A lot of us start out in this business on a budget and wind up broken on a budget, but making book selling jokes. Um, you come into the sport and you don't want a big expense. Okay. The one book that gives you everything, whatever seasoned bookseller you talk to, that we're going to all kind of agree that you need to build your vocabulary. You need to get some kind of banter of the basics, book of the month club's no good, first editions and how to identify, a glossary, a bibliography, and of course, descriptions of the books and their points. There's only one place that you can really get a bargain on that, and that is, in my opinion, and after years of recommending it and never having been yelled at for it, Patricia and Alan Ahern's collected books, The Guide to Values. In front of me is the 1998 edition. Doesn't matter what year you get. You should get at least the 98 or up, though, I would say that. You are not using it for pricing. We'll be back after these commercials.
Welcome to Bucks on the Bookshelf with your host, Steve the Bookman Eisenstein. Steve the Bookman Eisenstein has been involved in buying, selling, and appraisals of rare books since 1968. This show has been designed with making money for the listeners in mind. More people know the value of coins, stamps, objects of art, and collectibles they do not own than the values of the books in their home library shelves. Now, here's Steve the Bookman Eisenstein.
Welcome back, my fellow book lovers, and welcome to Bucks on the Bookshelf. Coker. Coker, before we go any further, pronounce your last name properly for me.
Gbenga.
Gbenga. So the G
Yeah.
is silent. Silent G.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Let me explain to the audience how we came about being, okay, on the show today. A few years ago, Enrico Novelli, and a lot of you I know, also post in Talking Antiques. I'm sorry, post in Club 30 International. And so, in doing so, that's how Coker and I had met. He was talking about art and things. Enrico is the host of it and wants everybody to talk about everything. So, that's what we did. We have talked many a session on, what I'm doing, how my wife is, what Coker's doing, and all that. And I think it was time to bring Coker onto the scene, and tell me if what I'm saying is incorrect, but we're going to also ask you why you're doing this, what got you started. Coker's in Nigeria and has connections with what I gather is a large number of artists from what I've seen. And you want to put on art fairs. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah. It's very correct. I've been wanting to hold an arts exhibition and fair, but it's not been easy to come up with the funds and support needed. Well, that's because the economy is not too okay right now. We're facing economic recession, and then recently there has been insecurities. It's affecting the economy and it's making it difficult for me to hold an exhibition financial wise because most Nigerians are finding it difficult right now to put money out there in the art circle. And that's why I'm reaching out to the international community, art lovers, book lovers, musicians, art collectors out there. If I could get some form of help to hold an exhibition and probably get buyers for some of my fantastic African art pieces.
You yourself don't make art, or do you? Do you create
I
anything? Do
yeah, I
you?
really don't. I really don't. I
Uh,
write.
Somebody's got to do the business end of it, Coker. That's you. That's why, I know. Artists make terrible businessmen.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
So, okay. I'm making an appeal out to the audience, especially the overseas audience, or maybe somebody in country here. What you need is a grant. You need some kind of grant type
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
And, that's a whole world unto itself. Um, I have never tried to get a grant. My wife used to write grants for her school. I mean, everybody tells me I think I could get one, but I've never tried. They have grants all over the place for what you want to do, and especially now with the attention, the unfortunate attention that's coming in to Nigeria. Maybe there's somebody out there that isn't involved in an international art or has, I don't see where this require it's a lot. Everybody's definition of a lot of money is different, okay?
Yeah,
When if you are putting, correct me, I'm thinking of an art fair just like I'm thinking of a book fair. The only thing that's different is the end product in the booths. Otherwise it's the same thing. You're getting the artists, you're getting the art, you're getting the books and the book dealers to a location where people are going to come and shop it. Okay.
yeah,
What is the is there an ongoing art market for tourists in your area? You need tourists. Your local market, I don't think, is going to support your local art market. Is that
yeah,
correct?
yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. The local art market has a whole lot of stuff, just like I have a whole lot of stuff too. I have a whole lot of stuff lying around here, and people are not really uh, buying. Although we have the rich, the elite, we have the collectors right here. But because of the economic situation right now, it's uh, it's difficult to get buyers for some of our stuffs. I have a whole lot of stuffs, but if I could hold an exhibition uptown, I stay in the countryside, and in the countryside, it's always very difficult to get buyers. But in the city centers, where the elites and where the businesses there are, if I could hold an exhibition in the city center, hopefully I should be able to get buyers and collectors. So that's where the issue is.
I got a question for you. My brain is always marketing. I've asked you this question, but in typing on Messenger, it's a whole different conversation.
Yeah,
Where you are in Nigeria,
yeah,
is there anything that is a tourist destination?
yeah, there is.
How
Yeah.
far is that from you?
Well, it's quite far. I stay on the outskirts of the city, and that's about 30, 40 miles away from where I am. And then that's where I really intend to hold the exhibition. If I could get help, that's where I really would love to hold the exhibition. It's far away from where I am. So that's my target. If I could get like a store set up in that environment or hold an exhibition, that's gonna help a lot to showcase what I got. I have a whole lot of stuffs.
I'm sure you do. I've seen what you've had. I want to talk about your merchandising for a second. You got to price stuff and you got to put better descriptions on your stuff. I'm telling you that. I've seen some really nice pieces that the piece would have sold themselves, but when all you show is the piece, no price, no history, it's something else. This tourist area that you're saying is about 14 miles away. Is it a seaport or is it a city? Are there any place where big cruise ships come in that's near you?
Yeah, well, the thing is, the city center is the business hub. It's like the commercial nerve center where businesses are, where the big buyers are. And really, we have a seaport in the city center too, but the seaport is unlike what you have in Europe, where you have cruise liners. We don't have cruise liners here in this part of the world. If you want to have a cruise, you will have to move to another country where you have cruise liners. I know what you're saying. We don't have a cruise liner here. What we have here are merchant ships, ships that export raw materials into Europe and Americas, and then ships that bring finished goods from Europe and America. We don't have cruise liners
Gotcha.
here in this part of the world.
I got it. Let me explain why I asked. Like I said, I don't know the fine points of your geography, But if you had a cruise ship somewhere that comes into port, they have art auctions on those ships all the time. They make a night of it where they're auctioning art. They bring in their own art, but if there was a ship in your area and you could provide them with a steady source of tribal or local type art, that would be a market in itself. So, okay, so there's no cruise ships. Okay, let me ask you the question. I'm trying to find a place for you in your area to market this stuff besides a street festival. I mean, a street festival, you got to get permission from, I guess the town, the landowner, all of that. Are there any major tourist hotels, not cruise ship, just is there a couple of big 400 room hotels that tourists come to that are within a traveling distance of you?
Yeah, we have, like I said earlier, we have international hotel brands here in Nigeria. We have Radisson Blue, we have Sheraton, we have the Hiltons, but they are far away from where I am.
How
And
far
then
is far away?
another 30 or 40 kilometers
Oh,
away.
that's no, that's dry. Yeah, that's well. I mean, if it makes money, I don't know if you have the availability to go there, you know. But let me explore it with you. Maybe you could figure out potentially. You could do the emailing and make yourself known via email. And if they tell you that, yeah, we'd love to talk to you, then obviously you'll find a way to get there and get the product there. But if look, remember, I used to be an entertainment director in hotels. We used to have artists come in and they would decorate our lobbies in exchange for hanging their pieces on the wall and letting the tourists buy them off the wall. They'd put up new pieces. They'd sell them. They'd put up new pieces. The hotel gets decorated for nothing and everybody makes money. That's the goal. You got to go into the Sheraton, the Radisson, the Hilton, whoever's there, and talk to, which probably would be, I guess, either I don't know, I doubt they have social directors there, but they've got to be somebody that, that organizes different events in the hotels. If they're a convention hotel or a tourist hotel, they have a sales department. Maybe you could come in through there. Look, on Thursday night, we're having a meeting in the hotel for all the husbands in this convention, but the wives need something to do. Hey, Coker, can you put on an art show for us? I'm asking you, did you ever think along those lines?
Yeah, Steve, like I
Eh,
said, I approached one of the managers at Hilton and Sheraton at some point in time, and then they were willing to do business with me. I told them I got a whole lot of fantastic African pieces, but then they were asking for some kind of huge amount of money. Remember, our
Money up
currency,
front from you?
definitely, they're asking for some money that they promise they're going to give me a space to display my stuff, but they demanded for money. And the amount of money they demanded is quite huge
Okay.
here.
And I
It may not be
understand
much.
that. Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, like I said, yeah, it's a different ball game here. They demanded for some money. They told me I will have to make some upfront payments, and they're gonna give me a space like a store to display my stuffs. And I told them I ain't got money, but I got stuffs. I told them maybe we should strike a deal. If I sell some of my stuffs, I'm gonna pay you guys.
And
And then the manager told me, what if I didn't sell up to what if I didn't make much money? Or what if I don't sell at all? I said, oh, well, let's work it out. So what they're asking me is get some money, we'll give you a space for a week or two or a month, you display your stuffs, you make sales. So that's where the issue is, the funds.
We got to take a break, but we're going to come back on that. I think that you have a better approach. There's a different way. You wanted to go in there commercially. You want to go in there as entertainment. And I'll tell you